No, the video is not frozen. I'm sitting here trying to make sure that the way that I start this video off is going to be effective. I want everybody to listen very carefully. I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to really think about this. Because from the indications provided on my Facebook page by many of my non-black friends, it seems to me that you, and I'm speaking specifically to my non-black friends on my Facebook page, it appears that you, many of you, not all of you, but many of you, would be okay with my murder. You would be okay with reading my obituary in the newspaper to discover that Akiba Howard was murdered. I know that sounds a little extreme, so you're probably ready to listen to the rest of this video and figure out exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to make it simple for you. If I'm walking down the street in a neighborhood where I belong, and don't tune out yet, just listen for a moment. If I, Akiba Howard, the man that you know, is walking down the street in a neighborhood where I belong, whether it's one that I live in or one that I'm visiting a friend in, either way, if I'm walking down the street and I'm confronted by a man who doesn't know me and I don't know him, and he aggressively is questioning me about why I'm in this neighborhood, please be clear that I'm going to turn around and I'm going to ask him to leave me alone. First, if he doesn't leave me alone, if he continues to persist with the idea of both pursuing me and aggressively, verbally harassing me about why I'm in this neighborhood, I'm going to tell him, I don't like your attitude and you need to back off. Now, if this man doesn't do that, if he's not willing to back down because I'm not willing to allow him to exercise some random sense of power over me, if he doesn't back down and he begins to aggressively continue to pursue me, we're going to get into a physical altercation. Now, according to what I'm reading from many of my friends on Facebook, during that altercation where I, Akiba Howard, as just described to you, is standing his ground, is defending his right to walk through any neighborhood in America freely without being harassed or pursued. If Akiba Howard, the guy that you've known probably for some time, is approached and is dealt with on that level, there's going to be a physical altercation. And according to what we have just witnessed, that person who is harassing me could pull out a gun and shoot me dead. Because in that physical altercation, I get the best of him and I begin to whoop his ass. The consideration that I have read from many of my Facebook friends is that you would be okay with my murder. That may not sink in enough, so let me try and change this for you. I want you to think about that baby that you have, that child of yours. You know, that child whose diaper you changed. The one, think about that first day that you brought your baby home. Boy or girl, doesn't matter. Think about how wonderful a feeling that was, that baby smell, that child that you had to stay up at nights with. Remember that first night that baby slept through the night? Oh, man. And then I want you to think about that baby going to kindergarten and beginning to have friends in class and that birthday that you had to plan. That child of yours. I want you to get that visual in your head. I want you to think about that child as I move forward here, because according to the conversation that many of my non-black friends have expressed on my Facebook page and on their own, they would be okay with the murder of their own child. So I'm going to ask you the question. Would you be okay with the murder of your own child? Because according to the conversations that have been had, the justifications that have been made for George Zimmerman murdering Trayvon Martin, you would be okay with your child being murdered as well. Now, let me put this on the table here, because remember, we're talking about that child that, made it to elementary school. And you remember that first Valentine's Day where you were helping them fill out the cards, thinking to yourself, oh, no, you better not be trying to have any kind of little hand holding with this little boy or girl. I remember those days. And then there was the sixth grade graduation and junior high school. Oh, and high school and boyfriends and girlfriends. Oh, my goodness. That's your child, your baby, right? I want you to think about that child right before graduation, right before that child was going to walk across the stage, that senior year of high school, the culmination of all of this wonderful time you had been spending with this child. Some of them not so much fun, others absolutely amazing. The memories that you have, that's your child. But this child now is 17 years old. If it's a boy, he's got some testosterone pumping. If it's a girl, she's probably been taught, do not talk to strangers, and if you are approached aggressively, fight and scream until either you get away or someone comes to help you. So, that child of yours that's about to enter their senior year of high school is walking down a street in a neighborhood where they belong. Somewhere that your child is supposed to be. And you even know that your child is there. You sent your child over to their friend's house to hang out. You know the neighborhood. You think it's peaceful. And somebody in that neighborhood sees your child walking around by themselves. Maybe they just went down to the pool area and were on their way back to the apartment because they had to go to the bathroom or something. So this person in this neighborhood begins following your child, your baby. Now remember, we've taught our children not to engage strangers. But this person is not willing to simply ask maybe one question and walk away. No, this person wants to continue to pursue, even in the face of being told by authorities to leave your baby alone. So here's the thing. This person decides they are going to pursue your child, and they're going to not leave it alone when they ask your child, what are they doing here? And your child says, I'm visiting a friend, or I'm on my way home, or I'm on my way to such and such's house. That's not good enough for them. So they continue to pursue them, asking questions and getting aggressive. Now, if your child feels like their life is in danger, they're going to do what we've all taught our children to do, which is to do whatever it takes to survive. If that person gets too close, there's going to be a physical confrontation. And here's where things get interesting. Because according to what I have read on my Facebook page and many others, during that physical altercation, if your child happens to be getting the best of the individual that pursued them, that has harassed them, if your child is kicking that person's behind, you're going to be okay when that person pulls out a gun and murders your child. I want to let that marinate for a minute because I don't know that many of you have really taken the time out to think about that. There's been a whole lot of responses here on Facebook about how George Zimmerman was defending himself. You guys say that with venom. And when I say you guys, please understand, I'm not talking to every one of my non-black friends on Facebook, so please don't get offended. If this doesn't apply to you, don't worry. I'm talking to the asshole people that I have maintained on my friends list who somehow think that I'm an Uncle Tom and that they can come to my Facebook page because I'm one of the good ones that's going to allow them to make ridiculous statements and say things that are horribly offensive. So before I actually throw down the gauntlet and change this into a reasonably intense discussion, I wanted to offer this video for you so that you could put into perspective something that it appears you haven't. Because if you can find a way to justify the murder of your own child, then maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe me and the whole black community is wrong. And we need to rethink the way that we address the ideas of law. If you think it's okay for your child to be murdered in that Trayvon situation where your child was pursued, where your child was harassed, where your, oh wait, I'm sorry, you guys don't understand where the harassment comes in? Let me explain. This is a man, George Zimmerman, who was told by the authorities while on the phone not to bother that child. So everything after that really doesn't mean anything. All of the justifications you make for murder really get thrown out of the door after the authorities that he's on the phone with while he's pursuing this young man say to him, stop. He didn't stop. And if he didn't listen to the authorities, I promise you, when he finally got to Trayvon, he started harassing him, asking him, why are you in this neighborhood? Who are you? What are you doing here? Nobody likes to hear that. Your child either. I very much doubt that your child would be okay with that level of questioning. And again, if your child were to turn around and even partially challenge that person who has this entitled sense of authority, that person's probably going to get a little upset, get a little edgy, start bucking up a little bit. Because let's remember, George Zimmerman at trial was not George Zimmerman day of shooting. George Zimmerman day of shooting was a fit, healthy fella. And I'm pretty sure that he had a few extra words he hasn't admitted to saying. Although he did admit pursuing and aggressively following Trayvon Martin. So those are really the facts. So again, back to your child. If your child's approached by one of these people and it seems like there might be a situation where your child needs to defend themselves, according to you, you would be okay with their murder because that man was defending himself from getting his butt kicked by your 17-year-old. Are you sure you're okay with that?